All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Monday, November 10th. My name is Everett, and this is the Volleyball Journal. It was a very interesting weekend of volleyball that we had going on around the world, with a number of big matches going on, a number of surprising matches going on, some upsets, some almost upsets, a lot of big points being scored. We had a decent little live stream going on yesterday for Lube versus Verona, so big shout out to everyone who joined the watch along. And yeah, just tons of things to talk about today on the show. And you know what? Let's just jump right into it. Because first and foremost, we're going to start in Italy, where there was only 5 matches on the docket this weekend, because the 6th match isn't being played until the 19th of November. So Perugia just avoided the sweep from Piacenza, turned it around, got the reverse sweep. We'll talk about that one. Then we'll also talk about Lube 3-donging Verona. I wasn't necessarily expecting that one. I thought it was going to be a real big matchup. I thought this one was going to be a battle, but it looks like my preseason predictions were kind of confirmed when it came to Verona in big matches. Also, Modena got a nice little 3-dong over Padova. Trentino beat Cuneo 3-1, and Cisterna with a big win in the relegation race, their 3rd win of the season. A little bit of controversy in that one, not that there really needed to be at all, but a nice 3-2 win for Cisterna on Saturday. But first and foremost, we are going to talk about the one that I did the watch along for yesterday, Lube 3-donging Verona. And now, it depends what point you would have asked me if I would have expected this result. If you would have asked me coming into the weekend, I would have said no. I thought Verona was going to bring a little bit more juice to this match. And if you had asked me kind of before the season, I would have said yes. Because kind of everything that I expected to happen did happen in this one. Ultimately, Lube dominated the majority of the match. They controlled the pace of the match. They controlled how it went. And Verona really just struggled to stay alive. Lube dominated from the baseline. I thought this one was going to be a serving battle. It really wasn't. Other than Darlin going on that serving run in the second set, it was all Lube all day long in this match. It started kind of pedantically as both teams were figuring each other out, trying to figure out what they needed to do. And ultimately, it was Lube that kind of dominated. It was nothing. I'm not going to say it wasn't close. Sorry, my sheets of notes crashed just as we were starting it up. There we go. Yeah, Verona's passing, not that great. Only 25% positive on the day, 7% perfect. It seemed like Micah had to run an absolute marathon. The amount of times he was tracking balls down to like sharp 4, past the sideline and just chucking it up for the left side. It seemed like it was all day. Keita, kind of what we were expecting. I think he only passed 1 ball with his hands early in the first. He was 20% positive on 19 targets. Mozic was a little bit better, 28% positive on 18 targets. And it was a very one-sided serving game, right? As I mentioned, only 25% positive in passing for Verona. Lube passed 39% positive and 18% perfect as a team. And it also showed in the aces as well. Like usually sometimes like aces don't really dictate, but this one, it definitely did. 6 aces and only 16 errors on the Lube side of things. That's about just under 1 for 3 aces to errors. So that's really good on Lube's side. 3 and 21. 3 aces for 21 errors. That's 1 for 7 on the Verona side. And like I said, it's not like Lube was really in a lot of serving pressure, passing 39% positive on this day. Darlin was the only one who was able to get any aces, and he got them all pretty much in that second set when they went on a nice little run. But Lube was able to come back, really come back from that pretty much right away and pull it out and saved a 3-dong. Now, there was some people in the chat talking and saying that Boniface was outsetting Micah Christensen, and I don't really subscribe to that or believe that for a number of reasons. I mean, first and foremost, as I said before, Micah was just running a marathon. He was tracking balls down all day long, and it's really tough to run your offense when you're running a marathon like that. And when he did, Verona still got their shots out there. Both of these teams had 39 kills, but it was kind of everywhere else that Lube dominated. I thought Lorenzo Cortesia for Verona did a very good job. He absolutely crunched a few balls. He was 5 for 7, but still only 7 attempts, 11 in total down the middle for Verona. And realistically, all they could do was shovel the ball to the left side. That's all their match was all day long for Verona. And on the other side of things, it did seem, well, on Verona's side, on the defensive side, it did seem like their entire game plan was to shut down Alex Nikolov. And I guess in a way they did that. They did get 5 blocks against him. I mean, he did go 17 for 30, and he is still the best out-of-system player that I've ever seen. But still, you got 5 blocks on Alex Nikolov. Unfortunately, that was the only 5 blocks that they were able to get. And it was very clear that it was a bit of a cat and mouse game for Boniface. I mean, 3 of the first, like early in the game, Lepke, who was the MVP, by the way, shout out, EFL, already had 3 kills. I think he was 3 for 4 halfway through that first set. He ended up being 10 for 16 with 2 aces and 2 blocks. Nikolov, by the way, was outstanding once again, 17 for 30, 2 blocks and an ace. It honestly seemed like he was either getting a kill or getting blocked, right? That made 23 of his 30 attacks in this match, and he was really good with 7 break points and a +6 overall. Lepke ended up being a +8 overall in this match. And Ozzy is asking in the chat, did Lube neutralize Keita? And I think they did. You know, it seemed like he was rattled. He had arguably one of his worst offensive matches of the year this year. In this one, he was 11 for 26 in the match with a, like a 28, 29% efficiency. Not fantastic. And on 19 targets, he only passed 21% positive, had no aces, 3 errors, 11 attempts. And it just seemed like Verona couldn't get anything going. And what was glaring to me as well is that I didn't think that Lube played that good. I didn't think they were out there playing out of their mind good in this one. I mean, Mattia Botolo, once again, he has been outstanding in reception, 50% positive on 12 targets. Fabio Balasso as well, 41% positive on 22 targets. Eric Lepke, 38% positive on 8 targets. But I didn't think that it was a outstanding match. It was a pretty good match from Lube. Don't get me wrong. They went out there and did what they needed to, but it didn't really feel, other than that one stretch of serving from Darlin in the second, it didn't really feel like they were under that much stress. It really didn't. And yeah, I hate to say that I called it, but I mean, I kind of did. It was a bit of a panic game for Verona. They were never able to get into rhythm. They were never able to kind of show what their offense was able to do. Defensively, it's really too bad that we don't have like block touch stats and dig stats like we have in the PlusLiga, because I thought that even though on paper Lube only got 5 blocks, I thought the blocking was really a key to their game. And I mean, it makes sense. If you're gonna serve that tough, put them out of systems a lot. Like you're gonna get 3-man blocks, and when you're up against Rakmozic and Nomori Keita, who once again got over 50% of the volume for Verona in this match, it's gonna be really hard to get big blocks on them because they contact that ball high and they try to hit deep. So there's a lot of slow down blocks, and then Lube was able to transition that into points. And yeah, from the baseline, Verona, not their best day. As I mentioned, missed 21 serves in 3 sets, so almost gave an entire set worth of serves away for Lube, and then they didn't really put that much pressure on them. So it was a difficult afternoon for Verona, and I kind of think it showed a bit more of what this team actually is and where they're hurting. I think Micah actually set a pretty good game. I think it would have been way worse if it wasn't for Micah Christensen on the Verona side, in my opinion anyways. Yeah, you just can't have both of your outside hitters passing less than 30% positive. One of them needs to be able to solidify things. And actually, like, looking at the numbers, Mosic, I think, is a little bit better server than I may have given him credit for, but we didn't really see it on this day because the Lube serving lineup is really damn good with Nikolov and Botolo. Botolo is, in my opinion, one of the best players in the league, and he's just so... I'm not going to say he's underused in this system. He's just underrated. You know, he knows his position perfectly. He plays that P2 role perfectly. He goes out there with a really high efficiency, and when he's given his chances, he takes them, right? 6 for 11 on the day and passing lights out. And then also big shout out to the middles. Gargiulo and Woutahir down the middle. Ozzy, you're asking in the chat about Woutahir. He played for Toronto last year, I believe. And by blocks per set and just overall blocks, he was second in the LegaVolley last season. So, you know, I think it's actually a really good pickup. Sure, Cheniniese was really nice, and he's able to open up some windows, but with the way he attacks. But it just didn't seem like him and Boniface really meshed all of that well. So I really like Woutahir down the middle, and especially since they have the ability to still go to Marco Podeschanin as well. So yeah, very good win for Lube. Unfortunately for Verona, it doesn't get any easier as they have to take on Perugia this upcoming Sunday. So it'll be back-to-back to kind of prove how they can do. However, I do think that Perugia is a good serving team, but they're not the serving team that they are throughout the lineup that Lube is. And, you know, their passing can be a little suspect. So I'm going to be interested to see how Verona, and if Verona can bounce back in this match. Before we move on to talk about the next match, we'll talk about Alex Nikolov here winning the Player of the Month for October. Not really any surprise there. He has been absolutely outstanding this season for this team. Leads the LegaVolley so far in points, 116 points through 5 matches, averaging 5.8 points per set. Second in the league behind Ferry Regers, who has been outstanding this year at 6.25 points per set, but he's only played 4 matches and 16 sets, so he only has 100 points. But definitely Alex Nikolov, well-deserved Player of the Month for the month of October in the LegaVolley. Next up, I want to talk about the little reverse sweep that we saw on Sunday as well. And I'll be honest, after the Verona Lube match, that I also was hoping for a 5-setter. I scheduled a run with my friends, and I was like, guys, this one's going to go long. I'm starting this stream at noon. Let's schedule our one run for 3:30. And at like 1:30, I was like, I don't know, guys. We should get this going. So managed to get in a little bit earlier. But as that was happening, I was missing, the brewing of a potential upset. I finally looked at my phone and saw the Discord blowing up and saw that Piacenza was up 2-0 on Perugia. And not only that, but they were absolutely dominating in the second. They won the first 25-20 and the second at 25-11. And now, basically, I did go back and watch this one via Volleymetrics. Basically, it looks like Gianelli was suffering a fever, that he wasn't feeling good, and by watching, he did not look good. That team was missing rhythm altogether. So, late into the first, they subbed in the young Brian Argelagos. I believe he's 18, 19 years old. And for a little bit there, it looked like Perugia was going to get pumped, was going to get absolutely pumped. Argelagos obviously holding the stick a little too tight. It's a hockey reference if you don't get it. And just undersetting everything, and the Perugia offense was not cooking at all. Not cooking in the slightest. And it seemed like their offense, they made, 12 hitting errors on this day. The majority of those came in the second set. right? They just seemed like they were trying to do way too much offensively, and they weren't taking care of business like they needed to. They weren't passing the ball like they needed to, and they weren't serving the ball like they needed to. But come the third set, that's when things really started to change for this Perugia team. They switched up a few things, brought in Sebastian Solé off the bench for Roberto Russo, and then I thought that Argilagos really like settled into himself. I think a few things happened. Argilagos really settled into his game plan and into his game. And he started running actually what I thought was a really nice tempoed offense, like really fast balls to the outside. He contacts that ball really high. His connection with the middle isn't necessarily there, and he kind of undersets the right side a little bit, but you could tell that Perugia was in a position to make those adjustments, especially offensively. But Perugia also tightened up their serve receive, and they tightened up their serving game as well. And on the other side of the net, Piacenza just got really complacent. And it really seemed like they were expecting Perugia to make the same amount of errors that they did in set number 2. And then after that, it was just building momentum for Perugia, right? They won the third and fourth 25-21, and then it was 15-8 in the fifth set as they really turned it on. It was interesting too. I heard an interview with Paulo Porro, which had a weird AI translation on it, but still I was able to understand. And he talked about these are the types of games that we can't let it get away. Like these are the types of games that if we are up against a good team like this, we need to take advantage, and we can't let it slip away by expecting the game to come to us. And that's exactly what we saw throughout this match. It was a bit of a revolving door on the left side for Perugia. And I mean, when you look at the numbers too for Perugia, they were they seem bad. I mean, Wasim Bentara was their leading scorer with 14 points. Semeniuk was their second best scorer with 10. This looks like an OUA scorecard here in the LegaVolley. And yeah, it was a match where they kind of just all got together and started playing really good. In the fourth, it did look like Piacenza was going to bounce back a little bit. They took a lead early. Plotnitsky made, I think, two errors pretty early on. I think he got aced and then made a couple of errors early on. They brought in Yuki Ishikawa, and I thought Ishikawa was really, really good coming in off the bench. He did come in off the bench as well in the second. Didn't go so well, but when he came in the fourth, he made a pivotal dig to kind of get the comeback going as they were down by 2-3. Matt on one play made an outstanding out-of-system swing from the back row. That was just kind of a Hail Mary toss-up, and he was able to hit some hands. And yeah, it was like this is the type of game where it's like good teams win when they're playing poorly, and that's exactly what this was for Perugia. And on the other side, it just seemed like they lost all of the wind in their sails throughout this match. Bovalenta was pretty good, 21 points, led his team. He was 19 for 35 with 2 blocks, no aces though. Robert Landy Simone, standard business as usual, 6 for 12 and 2 blocks for 8 points. Efe Mandaracha, 12 for 29. I was a little disappointed in Jose Miguel Gutierrez. And his numbers aren't terrible, but in the eye test, especially like as the match progressed, he kind of got deflated a little bit. He was just, he's getting set to the gap, and Porro is pushing him to the gap, and he's got a room to swing, and he's just kind of tipping it over and getting dug. And just countless time, and his body language wasn't that great. So I do want to see him kind of bounce back for this Piacenza team. But overall, a really good team win for Perugia as they continue to be arguably the best team in the league. Between them and Lube right now, as you see here, Perugia still has yet to lose a match, 5-0. Lube in second at 4-1 with 13 points. Verona in third at 4-1 with 12 points. Then you've got Modena and Trentino at 3-2. Then Piacenza, Milano, and Padova all down in the last playoff spots. Cuneo, Cisterna, Monza rounding out the group, and Grottazzolina still have yet to find that win. Unfortunately, they will be playing their week 5 match, and technically this is week 6 matches. It's all messed up a little bit, but week 5 technically on the schedule will be coming up this upcoming weekend. And just as we are here, let's see what is coming up. Actually, in the technically week 5, but in actuality week 6. On Saturday, we'll have Padova taking on Milano. And then on Sunday, we have Trentino versus Monza at noon Eastern time. No, I think that's 10 a.m. Eastern time, actually. 10 a.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. European time, Perugia versus Verona. So that was going to be another big one, another road match for Verona. I'm not entirely sure if they can win this one because, as I said, Gianelli was just sick. He's not injured, so he's undoubtedly going to be back full force in this one. But I do want to see maybe a little bit more fight from Verona, maybe a little bit more pushback, maybe something different for them to prove that they are the different team that they were last year after making these moves that I'm still not sold on. You will also have Lube taking on Piacenza. That one could be an interesting one. I actually really liked the way that Piacenza's offense looked with Paolo Porro coming back. They run that fast. They run it to the gaps. I just don't think that they have, like, especially in that P2 spot, like Mandaracha and Bovalenta are both guys who can put the ball away. There's a bit of immaturity there, especially on Bovalenta's side. You know, certain plays where he just swings away and needs to do something a little bit more. But still, I really like this young Piacenza team altogether. But still, we'll see how they can do up against the big serving team from Lube. And then also Cuneo, we taking on Grottazzolina. Grotta TGE looking to get their first win of the season. We're going to stay in Italy, jumping over to the women's side, where it was more or less a pretty standard week. On Saturday, we had 2 matches, one of which I watched. Scandici had a very interesting match against Bergamo, where they dominated the first and the third, and then the second was very, 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 very close. I think it went up to like 29-27, and it could have gone either way. That one would have changed everything for Bergamo as they continue to sit in second last, but a 3-dong there for Scandici. Also, Chieri getting a 3-dong over Macerata. And then on Sunday, we saw Conegliano beat Valafolia. It was mostly a bench match for Conegliano. We'll touch on that one in a second. Monviso beat Busto. Milano beat Cuneo. Firenze beat Consolini. And then Perugia upset Novara. And we're going to start with that one because, you know what? This Novara team is one that I thought I had figured out, and I can't get a grasp on them because they look different, not just match to match, but set to set. They just look different. This is their second 5th set loss. Of course, the other one being against Scandici or Milano. I can't remember. Doesn't really matter. This is their second 5th set loss, and it kind of goes up and down. The first set, they absolutely dominated. They won 25-14. You know, I watched, tuned in a little bit on it, and I was like, oh, okay. They're cooking. Taylor Mims looked like she was going to have an absolute afternoon, going 7 for 11 and a block for 8 points in that first, but then she just fizzled out after that, right? Mims had 7 points in the first and ended with 12. Was not great for the Novara side. Eventually in the third, they brought in Mayu Ishikawa, who was on the bench, moved Herbots to the right, but it was not a good offensive day for Herbots in any way. She finished 12 for 45 with a 17% efficiency, and she was the best in the fourth, but still she was 5 for 15. So couldn't even get things going there either. But on the other side, I thought Perugia, they had three different players in 20 points. Kashana Williams, former Penn State star, was real good in the second. She had 10 points in the second, was 8 for 15 with 2 aces. And then after that, it was the Beatrice Cardini and the Elena Perinelli show. Gardini finished with 21 points. She was 20 for 48. Perinelli had 21 points. She was 20 for 48. Gardini, who's in the thumbnail, she had 22 points, was 21 for 52. And it just seemed like the three of them kept on going. 10 points for Williams in the second. Then it was Gardini with 7 and Perinelli with 6 in the third. The fourth was a little less scoring, but then in the fifth was kind of a back and forth affair. Novara let a terrible free ball kind of fall on their court as there's a bit of a miscommunication between Lena Alsmeyer and their libero, Giulia Leonardi. It's so crazy. Novara's liberos are Giulia Leonardi and Giulia DiNardi. Come on, Italians. Like let's have a little bit of creativity when we come to our names, okay? Please. Grazie. But yeah, in the fourth, it just seemed to me like Novara really was missing that next level scorer, that go-to scorer who they can go to. Because you had all of the outsides, Alsmeyer, Ishikawa, and Herbots with 4 points. But, they went to Indy Bayans 5 times, and on the stats, Indy Bayans did a really good job in her first start, 18 points. She was 10 for 22 with 6 blocks and 2 points, especially in the third set where she was 4 for 7 with 3 blocks in that losing of the third set. But turning around, she was 1 for 5 in the fifth, which, as much as I really like Indy Bayans, I don't think that Amber Agiadi is going 1 for 5 in the fifth. But unfortunately, Agiadi is done with Novara. This was always the plan. They were just signing her for the injury to Bayans, and now she's going to heading back to the United States to play in League One. But yeah, in the fifth, you had Perinelli with 4, Gardini with 5, and even though Shauna Williams was struggling to score, they went 3 for 4 down the middle with Benedetta Bartolini. So a really good win here from Perugia. And I mean, they've been a bit of an up and down team this year, losing to Valafolia, losing to Macerata, losing to Firenze, but then, getting a win over Cuneo, a nice little 5-set win over Cuneo, and now a win over Novara as well too. So great job there by the Perugia women. Don't really talk about that often. Usually it's more so in the relegation race conversation. So great job by the Perugia women. Next, we're going to chat. Ooh, I didn't even put up the slide for that. I apologize. See, 3-2 there for the Black Angels. I really like that name. That's a cool name. I don't even know what to call the Novara logo. Like a pink mosquito? I don't know. Before we talk about that, as I said, we will talk about Conegliano getting a 3-1 win. Mostly went with the bench. Gabi didn't come on until halfway through the third. Nika Dalderop getting the start, 4 for 18 with a 0% efficiency. Not what we've been expecting from Nika Dalderop, and I think she's really following down that depth chart into that fourth spot because Fatoumata Silla on the other side of it was really good. MVP in this one. She had 19 points, 14 for 39, 2 blocks and 3 aces. She had 3 of the 4 aces for Conegliano on the day. Overall, just a really good match from the Gambian/Slovenian player. It was the worst match of the year that we've seen from Isabella Haak, who we'll talk about in a second too. So 7 for 20. She ended up getting pulled off halfway through the third, but Merita Didwe, 11 for 21 coming in off the bench. She had 14 points as well with 2 blocks and an ace as well. So Conegliano, even with a bench, can still get the job done nicely as they continue to be the number 1 team in women's volleyball altogether. And of course, big shout out to Isabella Haak, who is the MVP for the month of October in the LegaVolley Femmenile. And just taking a look at the standings here really quickly, Conegliano still at number 1, 9-0. Scandici at number 2 at 8-1. Malonza. They've got the Monza logo because it's technically Monza, but there's no team in Milano, so they've taken the Milano team. Monza is a suburb of Milano, for those of you who are North American or not from Italy in general. Chieri at 6-2 in fourth. Novara now at 5-3 in fifth. Firenze in sixth. Cuneo in seventh. Macerata in eighth. Valfoglia in ninth. Perugia with that big win in 10th. Monviso, formerly Pinerolo, in 11th. Busto has been having up and down season so far. They've lost 3 in a row, are in 12th. Bergamo, who have only won 3 matches in 2025, are 1-7 for 5 points in 13th. And then Consolini, also 1-7 with 3 points in 14th. Digway definitely ready to play a starter role for sure somewhere. And it does seem like Corneliano is kind of that developing ground. You know, if you want to get really good, like look at the way that Kalia Lanier has been playing. Lanier has been playing this year. Once again, she had a stellar match for Milano in this one. She had 15 points, was 15 for 26 in the match, which was outstanding for her. I mean, just look at how good she's been this year for Malonza. So it seems like it's a good idea. You go play for the best club in the world on the women's side, and you get really good, then you go take a starter spot elsewhere. All right, moving now from the LegaVolley Femmenile to the PlusLiga. And the PlusLiga was real interesting this week. Now, a couple of these matches that I have up on the screen right now, I talked about on Friday. So if you want to hear me talk about those, you can go to the last episode. Rzeszów taking down Warszawa 3-0, and Olsztyn taking down Gdansk 3-1. Those are 2 very interesting ones. But this one, these matches this weekend were super interesting. Starting with a 3-dong for Zaksa on Saturday. Zawiercie also getting a 3-dong against Helm on Saturday as well. Don't want to mention anything except for the fact that Aaron Russell went 9 for 11, an 82% efficiency in only 2 sets of work. He ended up getting subbed out for Patrick Waba, I think. Yeah, Patrick Waba. In the third. Touching on that Zaksa match just really quick, it is their first win of the year, and getting a 3-dong over JSW, who is kind of fallen pretty quickly. I mean, they started with a decent win over Olsztyn, but since then, Jastrzębski Węgiel, they lost the cup match as we kind of all expected over last week, and JSW has fallen, losing their last 2. Lost to Warszawa, now lost to Zaksa. But Zaksa picking up their first win of the year. They are now 1-3, and I thought that it was a pretty good match overall for Zaksa. They got the left side of the court going a little bit more. Igor Grabelny, much better. His numbers much higher. 11 for 18 with a 61% efficiency on this day. Zaksa hit a 47% efficiency in general, and that's the reason why Quinn Isaacson is on the thumbnail, because he was the MVP in this match and he looked really good. I've really enjoyed watching Quinn Isaacson over the years. Got to see him, for the first time in person on 2022 at the Pan Am Cup, and so really enjoyed seeing him do well this year. So yeah, finally a nice good win. Rich Licky also coming up pretty big. He continues to be one of the best scorers in the PlusLiga this year, his first year in the league, with 15 points. He was 12 for 25. Not the biggest efficiency with only 32%, but did get 2 blocks and an ace. Rafael Shimura still has to figure it out a little bit. 7 for 18. And on the JSW side, they continue to have Lucas Kaczmarek issues. 4 for 13 in 2 sets of work, 0% efficiency. They brought him Adam Lorenk, who was 4 for 10, but still a minus efficiency. Just a big hole on the right side for JSW. Nick Scherzen continues to be the guy, but not sure how much longer he can carry this load. He had 10 points. Miran Kujundžić also had 10. Anton Brema, who's now being rumored to be going to Resovia next year, 7 for 9. Much like this is kind of what we've expected to him. But yeah, this JSW team, I think they're gonna have to be struggling to find a playoff spot. No doubt about it, in my opinion. I keep on forgetting to go to the different slides as we see. Nice little picture there of Quinn Isaacson. 25-16, 25-23, 27-25 in favor of Zaksa for their first win of the year. But another team who had a first of the year, Lublin, fall into Skra. And it did seem like Lublin was a little tired after playing their cup match during the week. And I know in the PlusLiga they should be used to playing multiple matches in the week, but they weren't. I thought I was bringing them good luck because they were down 0-2, down 8-12 in the third, and I started watching this match, and then they started winning and ended up winning the third. But Lublin having some difficulties passing the ball in this one. Now, they started Zach Jackson-Young instead of Henno Hiller in this match, and Jackson was very good at times, led the match with 14 digs, but I thought he wasn't the strongest in the fourth, and I'll be the first one to say that. 1 for 6 with a 0% efficiency in the fourth, only passing 25% positive on 8 targets. So really just taking a big load there, but also kind of the same. Like Lublin passed as a team 23% positive in the fourth all around. But I'm not saying here that Jackson was the issue. I'm just talking about him first because he's my Canadian guy. Kevin Sosek, not the greatest match, 7 for 18 with a 23% efficiency. They did bring in Mateusz Malinowski in kind of throughout the second set. He was all right, 8 for 16 with a 31% efficiency, and it just seemed like Lublin just lacked a bit of juice, lacked a bit of something. They were a little bit tired. Maybe they went and partied after their cup win on the weekend or during the week. So to be expected, Lublin suffering their first loss of the year. And this Skra team, you know what? They continue actually to impress me quite a bit, especially without Alan Souza, who was their big signing in the offseason. Bringing in Alan, it looked like he was going to be their guy, but early on, he had some injury issues, and we have yet to see him. But you've got 4 different guys in double digits here for Skra, led by Daniel Kitigoy, coming in from Zaksa from last season. You remember, 2 seasons ago when he had that outstanding Super Cup and then broke his hand, and we've never really seen him again. 18 points in this one for Skra, 16 for 34 with a block and an ace, passing all right too, 34% positive. Then you've got Kamil Shimura, the other Shimura, and Antoine Patron with a big match. Both of them passing over 50% positive and over 20% perfect as well. 59% for Shimura and 55% for Patron. So both of them passing real well. And that's where I thought Skra was just in system. It really helped them open up things to Bartolomew Lemansky. Lemansky has been a bit of a monster this year. I'm not going to lie. He's looked really, really good. I think he's averaging at least 13, which he had in this match, 9 for 12. Also down the middle was Michael Salaka, who was 6 for 9 with 3 blocks. Antoine Patron also had 3 blocks. He had, this ended up with 15. He was 10 for 25, 3 blocks and 2 aces. So the Frenchman outplaying the other Frenchman on the other side, Hiller Henno, who we saw basically not at all. And then Arkadiusz Zaketa, the backup opposite, also having a decent match as well. 13 for 29, not huge numbers, but still better than Kaczmarek. So yeah, Skra doing a not too bad jobs so far this year. And then before we get to the standings, I will remember to switch the asset here on for those watching the stream. Norvid Testahova with their first win of the year. And Norvid, it just seems to me like they have not left side problems, but you could want a little bit more. On one side, you have Milad Abadapor, who's maybe on the lower end of his career, going 14 for 30 with a 26% efficiency. Passed the ball lights out, though. 57% positive and 46% perfect, which really helped eventual MVP Luciano De Cecco his team hit a 44% efficiency, which was huge. Of course, Patrick Indra, always up there putting up some good numbers. He was 23 for 39 in this match with a 46% efficiency, so really, really nice. And then Jakub Kiros, the young lefty, 18 years old, 16 points in this one. You had all 5 attackers for Norvid Częstochowa in double digits in this one. Indra with 24, Kiros with 16, Jakub Novak, who had an absolute monster landy game. He was 11 for 11 in attacking with 2 blocks and an ace. He had 14 points, as did Milad Abadapur. And then Sebastian Adamczyk going 6 for 12 with 3 blocks as well down the middle for 10 points. So a really nice team win to finally get Norvid on the board. Norvid Częstochowa, and on the other side of the net, Suwałki, who is kind of fighting for their lives right now. Bartosz Filipiak with 21, but 7 errors overall with a 30% efficiency. He did have 3 blocks and an ace, however. How many digs these two teams? 38 for Norvid, nice, and 32 for Suwałki, and then 18 for Asparuhov. But other than those two guys, not much help out there for Suwałki. So a great win for Norvid to get on the board as we move here to the standings in the PlusLiga. Norvid sitting in 11th with a 1-3 record. At the top of the table, you have Zawiercie sitting in first, 12 points, 4-1. Rzeszów, Resovia, still undefeated at 4-0, 11 points. Warszawa, 3-1 with 9. Bełchatów, 3-1 with 9. Olsztyn, 3-1 with 9. Lublin, 3-1 with 8. Gdansk, 2-2 with 6. Jastrzębskie, 2-2 with 5. Zaksa now on the board, 1-3 with 5. Barkom Lviv, 1-2 with 3. Norvid, 1-3 with 3. Helm, 1-3 with 2. And then Suwałki and Gorzów, both 0-4 with just a single point. But there's actually some really big matches coming up this week. Tomorrow, Warszawa will take on Lviv, which I think could be a little bit interesting. And also, we'll have Gdansk take on Gorzów. On Wednesday, Olsztyn should take care of Suwałki. But you also have Zawiercie taking on Lublin in a rematch of last year's finals. And then Zawiercie kind of playing back-to-back matches. And if you're looking at the schedule, that's the way it would look. They play on Wednesday against Lublin, and then they also play on Saturday against Jastrzębski Węgiel, JSW. So that will be an interesting match to watch. Saturday actually is a really big day, in my opinion. Some interesting matches. Zawiercie taking on JSW. Norvid taking on Olsztyn. I think that one should be a really, really good matchup. 2 very, very good setters. Of course, DeCecco seems to be settling in with Częstochowa. Olsztyn with Johannes Thiele, the German, who's just been really doing a really, really good job for them over there. They'll be that match will be at 5:30 p.m. Poland time. And then later on in that evening at 8 p.m., you'll see Zaksa take on Lviv. But on Sunday is the big one. Lublin taking on Resovia, arguably the 2 best teams in the league going head-to-head. That will be a very interesting matchup. That's going to be going on at 8:45 a.m. if you're like me on the Eastern time. So depending on what I do on Saturday night, I might throw on a little bit of a watch along to watch that one. Okay, and then Helm taking on Skra, and Warszawa taking on Gdansk. Could be a very, very interesting matchup over there as well on Sunday. So a big week and weekend of PlusLiga volleyball to watch. Now, not much stuff going on. Otherwise, we're still waiting for the VLeague and the Sultanar League to pop back up. I haven't really touched in base with the German Bundesliga, although I do know that on Wednesday we have Nuremberg against Berlin. And if I'm not mistaken, it's free on the Bounce House, the Spawn Tent channel on Twitch. So join the Discord. I'm sure Yana will have the links for us, and I'll probably be checking that out on Sunday. Now, only a little bit more to talk about here. Mostly the Japanese VLeague, where we had week number 3, and once again, it looks like things have kind of settled out a little bit. One thing you don't see on the screen on Friday night, Tokyo did go to 5 with Nagano. 20 points for Bartosz Kurek, 26 for Luciano Vicentin. Vicentin had a really big weekend. He had 46 points in the 8 sets in total. Nagano actually went up 2-0 in the first match, and then Tokyo came back and won in 5 with the reverse sweep, taking down the fourth 34-32, which actually wasn't the high scoring set in Japan this past weekend. So 20 for Kurek in the first match, 26 for Luciano Vicentin, and then 19 for Rikuto Goto, the Japanese player. Roque out of Brazil, 23 points for Nagano, and then my boy Matt Nees with 17 in this match. And just like I said, it was a 3-dong for Nagano for Tokyo, winning both of this one. Vicentin continues to lead the show over there. He was outstanding in this one once again. 16 for 27 with 4 blocks. Didn't get aced at all. He had a 56% efficiency, so big shout out to Luciano Vicentin. Bartosz Kurek also had 17 after he recovered from sickness, and then Roque with 16, and unfortunately my boy Matt Neves not as good on night number 2. Only 7 points, got pulled off in the third or halfway through the second set. Other things to talk about here: Suntory. Osaka Suntory Sunbirds with 2 good wins over Wolf Dogs Nagoya. In the first match, Nagoya went up 1-0, and then it was all Suntory after that. 25-23 in the first for Nagoya, then 25-17, 25-22, 25-22 for Suntory, and they continued to spread that ball around. Mazurski, 25 points, Ran with 16, and Igor Kliuka with 12. And then on night number 2, it was another 4-setter, 25-22, 25-19 for Suntory, then at 25-21 for Nagoya, and then 25-20. And Nagoya, they do seem like they're pretty good. They've got all 4 of their guys in double digits. Night 1, it was Timothée Carl with 16, Miura with 15, and Yasuto Mizumachi with 14. But man, Miura, 39, hitting a 39% with a 13% efficiency. Not great. Norbert Huber as well. 8 for 15. For a guy his size, he should be way more efficient down the middle. That's just my opinion. In match number 2, it was much of the same. Miura with 14. Carl, not great. 5 for 14 with a 7% efficiency. He didn't even come on. He got subbed out in the second. They brought in Ayman Bougara, the Tunisian, who was all right. He was 8 for 14, but at least had a 43% efficiency. And then the other side, Mazurski had 18 and Ran had 16. They didn't bring on Klika until later. You also see here Osaka Blue Tion got 2 wins over Toray Arrows, and then also a split for the Hiroshima Thunder. And no TJ DeFalco in this one. He was not on the roster, and it sounds like there's a little bit of a sickness going around in the Japanese league. Talking to Matt Neves, he was off the roster last weekend. So was Bartosz Kurek. Sounds like it was the big C. So we know how we all overreact with that one. But in match number 1 for Hiroshima, Cooper Robinson, outstanding. 21 points, 19 for 32. He had 2 blocks. Also passed a 55% positive on 40 targets. Has over 50% of the balls. He had 40 of the 78 targets in this match, and he was more than up to the task with 21 points. Oh no, wait. Roque is with Hiroshima. I always forget because like the translation is really bad. Who's the guy for Nagano again? No, it was Oscar Martinez, I'm pretty sure. It doesn't really matter. I'm sorry. I'll be better next week, I promise. But yeah, Roque. with 23 in this one. Night number 2 was a different story. Sorry, also Lucarelli, 21 points with a 29% efficiency. Stéphane Boyer with 26 and a 39% efficiency. Other than that, though, J-Tech does not have the roster that they did last year altogether, but they did manage to get pull through and get the win on night number 2. Boyer, much more efficient. He was 20 for 40 with a 35% efficiency and 2 blocks. Lucarelli, 14 for 32 with a 24% efficiency and 18 points. But Hiroshima, Cooper did not have it. It's clear that he was, in my opinion, a little bit tired as I was looking at some of the replays. He was 9 for 22 with only 12 points in this match. And as we look at the standings here, oh, I forgot to get the standings for the SV League. I might have deleted those. I definitely had the asset for it. But Blution and Suntory, the two Osaka teams, in first, both at 5-1s, 15 points for Blution, 14 for Suntory. Nagoya in third at 3-3. Then you have J-Tech technically has only played 5 matches, I guess. They are 3-2 for 8 points. And they also have Tokyo at 3-3 and Hiroshima at 3-3 as well. Nagano started the year 2-0. They've lost 4 straight. Sakai getting the split once again this past weekend with Hokkaido. And then Toray Arrows pulling up the rear at 1-4. And at some point, they're going to have to take off Cardenas and put in everyone's favorite, Taylor Averill. I don't know if I can stand another year of watching Taylor Averill sit on the bench because of foreigner rules. It just seems to be the case time and time again. It's a little frustrating, but it is kind of what it is in volleyball sometimes with these foreigner rules. Now, looking forward to this upcoming week. I think it's actually another really big week here in the SV League. Matches on Thursday and on Friday, actually, with Tokyo and Nagoya taking on each other on Thursday and Friday. That's actually going to be the biggest matchup for sure, as Blution will be taking on J-Tech. And hopefully, if J-Tech has TJ DeFalco back, that match could be very entertaining. But if not, who knows? I don't think so. Nagano will be taking on Shizuoka, Toray Arrows. So we'll see if maybe we'll get a bit of we'll definitely get a win from one of those two bottom basement teams. Hiroshima looking to improve their 3-3 500 record against Voleas Hokkaido. And Nippon Steel will be having a hard time against Suntory Sunbirds. So you guys can check out all of those at the usual spot. And that will pretty much do it for this week's show. Just to touch on some of the big matches this weekend that you can watch before I let y'all go. Wednesday actually will be a pretty big day. We have Scandicci against Chieri in the LegaVolley Femmenile. That will be going on at 8 p.m. European time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Zavierci against Lublin. That'll be at 8:30 p.m. European time, 2:30 p.m. But before that, I should have planned this out a little bit or better. Berlin versus Lüneburg at 1:30 p.m. Eastern time, 7:30 p.m. Berlin time or German time or European time, whatever you want it. So maybe we'll do a nice little live stream on Wednesday, but if I do, it'll be over on Twitch. I don't have the ability to stream to both Twitch and YouTube yet, so I'm going to keep most of my live streams over on Twitch for now. Saturday also should be pretty interesting as well. First up, Zavierci, once again, going to be taking on Yashemski Vangel at 2:45 p.m. Poland time. That'll be 8:45 a.m. here on the East Coast in North America. And then Milano versus Novara. So another really spicy LegaVolley Femmenile match going on Saturday. That will be at 8:30 p.m. their time, 2:30 p.m. our time. And then on Sunday, we got a couple of big matchups as well. Lublin against Rzeszów, the two best teams in the PlusLiga, in my opinion anyways. going on at 2:40 p.m. Eastern or European time, 8:40 a.m. Eastern time. Perugia versus Verona could be a good match there at 4 p.m. European time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. Imoco and Scandici, Conegliano and Scandici, the two top teams right now in the LegaVolley Femmenile. Should be a very good one. That will also be at 4 p.m. European time, 10 a.m. Eastern time. And then Piacenza Lube might be interesting at 6 p.m. And then finally, we have the return of the Sultanlar Ligi as Exacebashi taking on Fenerbahce at 7:30. Exacebashi with, why am I forgetting her name? The Polish middle. Magdalena Stisiak making her return to Fenerbahce, or playing her old team. I'm not entirely sure who the home team is. Rodman's Hair made me this list. Shout out to Jem, Rodman's Hair. So a big week in volleyball with everything going on this week, all the different matches. And of course, we've got Champions League round 4 qualifying going on later this week as well. So I'll be doing another show on Friday, so you guys can catch me on Friday morning or afternoon here in Eastern time to recap everything that's happened over this week and set you up for the weekend that will be in volleyball. I appreciate you all. If you haven't checked, go leave a comment on my top 6 Americans so far in the LegaVolley Femmenile. And I will see y'all maybe for a live stream on Wednesday. If not, I'll definitely see you on Friday. Love you all. Have a great week. Bye.